Welcome to Truth by Billie Beene. Today's date, August 13, 2025. Time in Texas about 3 p.m. So let's get started with a flash update. We're going to begin with some things that are going on in the Gulf and the tropics. So we've had two systems out here. They're gone off of the National Hurricane Center's page. We still have Erin, currently a tropical storm with winds of 45 miles per hour, a little lower barometric pressure at 1004. As of today, August 13, the 11 a.m. National Hurricane Center update, and slowing down from 23 miles per hour forward speed yesterday to 17 miles per hour. It's predicted to be a Cat 3 by Sunday, and almost all the models now are agreeing that Erin is going to turn back to the east, away from America. So we need to continue our prayers against this. And we have, from suspicious observers, also space weather. Sunspots on the sun are turning to face the Earth tomorrow, August 14. And we know that Erin also makes its turn tomorrow, August 14. So let's continue to pray for it to turn. And now we'll look at some political updates. So we have from PROMETHEON updates, plus other sources I'm using. We have President Trump addressing several things, the Fed, plus his upcoming meeting with President Putin on Friday, and so forth. Today, Wednesday, August 13, we had President Trump's DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, come out and release more information. This has to do with the Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, who we know, and I have put forth this information before, the Fed is not part of the U.S. government. It is part of the deep state financial center based in England, in London, in a small section of London called the City of London. This is where all U.S. tax dollars go to Puerto Rico and then on to the City of London, where it's laundered by the deep state and then loaned back to the U.S. with interest. Our debt is fake. But to administer this in the U.S. is this financial group, the Fed, that is not a part of the federal government. So President Trump is battling the deep state. And we have documents coming out that President Trump personally declassified from the FBI, labeling Senator Adam Schiff, allegedly representing California. We know he resides, I believe, in Maryland. But naming him as a deep stater. So that's coming out. And it's also coming out from these declassified documents that it was Obama and JB who put forth certain conspiracies like the J6 event, like the Russiagate event, and so on. So that's coming out. This involves both the FBI and certain people within the CIA from a period of 2017 to 2023 involving former President Obama, Clapper, Comey, Brennan, plus. So, and certainly HRC. She's the one who paid for the MI6 false Russiagate document put together by MI6 agent Christopher Steele, paid directly by HRC from money in her Dem campaign fund. That was to take down President Trump. Yeah, so that's going on. So we see bit by bit God winning. And we have this from Hal Turner. Okay, so President Trump and President Putin are meeting Friday. It's now coming out that they're going to be meeting at Elmendorf, U.S. Air Force Base, located near Anchorage, Alaska. And this will be the meeting on Friday. I have not heard a time yet. And we have this coming out, that to destroy this peace talk meeting between President Trump and President Putin Friday, the deep state via NATO, the EU, Ukraine, want to stage a false flag. I have more details on that. Now, I'm putting this forth that as a part of my conspiracy theory, that we have that recent 8.8 alleged earthquake near Kamchatka Peninsula, Russia, and we had 2 U.S. nuke subs moved. We had a $50 million bounty out on Maduro. I believe all these things are connected, plus the PA, the state of Pennsylvania, to pass out nuke pills, I believe the 14th. I believe all these things are connected. I believe the deep state is behind them, and they all have a common factor: to take down the peace talks between Trump and Putin. Now, most recently, I reported on another assassin attempt on President Trump that was started by the U.S. military to take place near Wasilla, that's near Anchorage, and the Ukraine assassin was shot dead by the U.S. military August 10. So that's going on. And recall that assassination attempt on President Trump in Butler, PA, in July of 2024, Christopher Thomas Crook, who was shot dead and then immediately cremated, all evidence destroyed by the FBI, CIA. However, it came out that Thomas Crook had several encrypted telephones, one linking directly to NATO headquarters in Brussels, Belgium. So we see NATO, the EU, Ukraine, all part of the deep state, have actively been involved in assassination attempts on President Trump. So that's going on. And we have this. Ukraine, according to the intel received by Hal Turner. We know Hal Turner was part of counterterrorism with the FBI for about 15 years. He has a lot of contacts globally. Ukraine, so it's NATO, the EU, Ukraine. They're all part of one big deep state group. They're now setting up to stage a false flag in Ukraine and blame it on Russia. So, August 12, yesterday, Ukraine government, well, so-called government, we know it's really a dictatorship, a deep state operation, was using buses to take busloads of foreign journalists to an area inside Ukraine. So we have Russia, Belarus, Ukraine. Right in this area, right here, is an area called Kharkov. It's right on the border with Belarus and Russia. Ukraine, busing foreign journalists to an area called Chugayev, Kharkov. And the intel is Ukraine plans to stage a false flag and drop drones and missiles on civilian hospitals inside Kharkov. Have the foreign journalists there to immediately begin taking shots of all the dead and bleeding bodies of civilians, and then blame Russia. We who are awake understand Zelensky is a puppet of the deep state, as is the entire so-called Ukraine government. It's a deep state operation, and NATO, EU, Ukraine, the deep state, all have one objective: war, war, war. And we have this. So, multiple sources, including WERX, is that many C-17, that's large U.S. military cargo planes, have been going to the Middle East, especially Kuwait. It's believed they are setting up for the relocation of approximately 1.2 million people from Gaza. So the U.S. military is setting up tents, medical centers, water, electricity, porta potties, showers, kitchens, plus to accommodate a relocation of the people of Gaza from Gaza, apparently to Kuwait and possibly other Middle Eastern locations. I'm assuming the Gaza people will be moved by the U.S. military. Yes, the U.S. military will relocate. And so it will be interesting to see the next chapter of this ongoing Gaza saga, and I wonder what we will hear about it in the future. We know most likely books will be written. I wonder how much truth will be in them. And for my part, I wonder how God, the perfect judge, will determine the fate of both nations and individuals who have been involved in this Gaza saga. So that's going on. And now we have this. So we had the 8.8 that happened July 30. I put out in previous videos It appears it was not an 8.8, but rather an 8.0 earthquake near the Russian Kamchatka Peninsula near Alaska. And it's believed the deep state was trying to juice it up using a scalar wave in ships, Venezuelan fishing ships, off of the coast of the Russian peninsula, to juice it up from an 8.0 to an 8.8 to destroy the Russian nuclear sub-base in Kamchatka, and also to do massive harm to both the U.S. military and U.S. civilians in Alaska, the U.S. West Coast, Hawaii, Guam, and so on, all the way down to Japan. And we had also on July, then the next day, 31, we had the state of Pennsylvania coming out and saying that Pennsylvania citizens who live within 10 miles of the 4 nuclear power plants located in the state of Pennsylvania were going to be given by the state potassium iodine pills by August 14. What brought that about? Do you wonder? In my mind, there must have been a direct threat to the state of Pennsylvania for some type of nuclear event to occur at one of its 4 nuclear power plants. That's my thinking. And we saw then on August 8, Maduro having the U.S. DOJ put out a $50 million bounty for the arrest of Maduro. I submit Maduro is being hunted, I believe, by both the U.S. and Russia for his involvement in the 8.8 earthquake event that took place July 30. So that's my thinking. So we see now President Trump, President Putin meeting August 15, and the deep state digging in their feet more and more to bring about some type of false flag. I submit the possibility that the United States of America, especially the state of Pennsylvania, may be under threat by the deep state, for the deep state to bring about some type of nuclear event in Pennsylvania, and then blame it on Russia. So we need to keep our hat of discernment on and ask God, ¿Qué pasó, Father? What's going on? I know sometimes it's like my head is spinning. So yeah, it's good to get God's input. We have this from Dr. William Mount, who continues that President Trump and President Putin will be discussing, among peace in Ukraine, also a massive trade project between the U.S., Russia, and China. I believe the part of China over which President Xi has control. It's my personal opinion that President Xi of China does not control the military arm of China, the CCP. I believe that's totally under the control of the deep state. So at any rate, Dr. William Mott puts forth that President Trump, President Putin will discuss the McKinley Plan, which will involve a massive trade project involving rail, bridges, tunnels, all the way from the tip of South America, Argentina, up through South America, through Mexico, the U.S., Alaska, over to Russia, and then down to certain ports in Russia, with trade to proceed by river, ship, down to China. In agreement with this project are President Trump, President Putin, and President Xi. So that's going on. Now, Dr. William Mount also puts forth, it would be good for us to be in prayer for the circumventing of a nuke event in Washington, D.C. Intel places at about September 13. This could also be another reason why President Trump put in force the National Guard control of D.C. and to be in prayer against a nuke event October 17 on the borders of Germany, France, and Switzerland. The deep state doesn't care who it kills. Americans, Russians, Chinese, Europeans. The deep state places no value on human life. And we have this. More from Hal Turner on these FBI CIA leaks that Adam Schiff, senator from California, and his staff, and other Dems and other rhinos participated in leaking classified information in an attempt to discredit President Trump, Russiagate Plus, and that the DOJ at that time was so corrupt, it told these Dems and rhinos, oh, this isn't espionage, leaking classified secret information that impacts U.S. national security. No, it's okay. It comes under free speech. So yeah, that was the DOJ that President Trump is also currently purging. And we have this. Yeah. Ukraine, covert intel, plans a false flag inside Ukraine near the Kharkov area of Ukraine. They are busing in foreign journalists. And the deep state Ukraine plan is to hit a civilian hospital inside Kharkov, have the foreign journalists there to take immediate shots of the dead and bleeding, and then blame Russia. It's believed that Ukraine's false flag will involve Ukraine hitting civilian hospitals in Kharkov with drones and missiles. So that's going on. So it's good to be in prayer for America, President Trump, the U.S. military, and world peace. I love you, and I'll see you soon.